I'm always so serious.
Go ahead and start when everyone's ready. I don't know where my recorder went.
Okay, well, I think, go ahead.
Okay, hi everybody. Thank you for joining us for our town hall today on reproductive rights and what we're doing to stand up for women's right to choose, for the protection of families, and in protecting and defending and preserving democracy. I'm Michelle Vallejo, and I am the Democratic nominee running for Congress here in Texas District 15, and I am so grateful to be having this conversation with my good friend Rochelle Garza, who is our nominee for Attorney General.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for being here today. My name is Rochelle Garza. I am a Brownsville native. I'm a fifth generation Tejana from the Rio Grande Valley. I'm a mother and I'm running against criminally indicted Ken Paxton. I'm here today with my friend Michelle Vallejo to discuss something that is absolutely important to our communities, which is access to reproductive health care, to be able to control our own bodies and our futures. And we need that in the Rio Grande Valley. We need that across the state of Texas. So I'm so proud to stand here with Ms. Vallejo and in this battle to restore access in this state.
So now the candidates will take about 15 minutes of questions. I don't know who wants to go first. Okay, go first.
On this issue specifically, do you feel like it's resonating a lot when you go and talk to voters, and how do you sort of walk that line between voters who may not necessarily see eye to eye on this issue with you?
I can go ahead and begin. The vast majority of the people of Texas want abortion access in some form. Over 80% of Texans want that. Right now, I'm not going to mince words about where we're at. There is no access to abortion care. It doesn't matter if you have been a victim of rape, of incest. It doesn't matter how young you are. And my opponent, Ken Paxton, sued to stop doctors from providing life-saving care to people who need an abortion in an emergency room. So that includes people that are having a miscarriage. A doctor cannot provide you care until you are septic, until you are on your deathbed. That is not who we are as Texans. We do not want our daughters to die. I certainly don't want that for my 6-month-old daughter who is gonna grow up in this state. And that's why we're here today, is because we need to make it very clear that this is a healthcare issue. Access to abortion is healthcare, and people's lives are at stake. So we need to stand up and fight back on that.
So we are talking with everybody about this issue, and it's coming up more and more on the campaign trail. We are talking to fathers, we're talking to grandparents, we are talking to people in the most rural parts of the district, because they are aware that women's rights have been rolled back almost 50 years in the past, and we're also aware that other rights are at stake here. So people are talking to us about their right to privacy. People are talking about their right to determine their own future, their own bodily autonomy. And we are seeing that doctors and nurses are scared of performing life-saving care to their patients, for having the risk of ending up in jail, having the risk of being fined more than $100,000 and losing their license. And so this is a critical moment, and we've been hearing some very scary stories of things happening right now. We don't have to wait many weeks or many months into the future. This is deeply affecting families, this is deeply affecting women, and we are here to make that change.
And one more thing to note is that this is going to have lasting economic impacts on our healthcare system. So doctors are leaving the state of Texas because they are afraid of going to prison. We cannot attract physicians to do their residencies here because they cannot be trained up to the standard of care on the federal level. So we as a state are going to be losing doctors and nurses and healthcare providers, and the state of maternal health is going to decline significantly. So that's not what we want going into the future. It is not just healthcare, it's our lives, but it is also these other rights that we are concerned about.
If elected AG, is there anything you can do about it in that capacity?
As Attorney General, I would have independent constitutional powers to protect Texans from these extreme abortion bans. I do not answer to the legislature or to the governor or to the lieutenant governor. I answer to the people of Texas, and the people of Texas are asking for this important privacy right to be respected, and that's what I will work towards as Attorney General.
Why is the abortion a top issue when there are many other topics like economic policy, health, and you are more, we see you more concentrated with abortion than other important topics for the population, for the people?
It's critical to understand that access to abortion care is about access to your bodily autonomy, to your ability to decide what happens to your future. And that touches every other issue. It touches the economics. That's what I was explaining with physicians leaving the state of Texas, with businesses not wanting to come here to this state because half of their workforce will not have access to a very important health care. It touches everything. So I have been talking about in my candidacy, not just access to abortion care, but making sure we're doing the job and protecting consumers, because the Office of Attorney General is supposed to be the people's lawyer. And that means standing up for everyday people that are being price gouged. That means standing up for people that have $500 electric bills because we got taken advantage of. So it's all of the things, but this is an important issue because it's at the top of the mind of voters all across this state. I have traveled the whole state, and it is the #1 issue I am hearing.
Sorry, so going back to what can be done, when you talk to voters about why this issue is important, how do you explain to them, now that the public damage has been done, what is it you can do if you were to be elected in office to, help on this issue?
At the federal level, it's important that there are people in the Attorney General's office to make sure that they're protecting people at the very local and state level. At the federal level, we are going to make sure that we are passing legislation like the Whole Women's Protection Act. And this is to reinstate the protections that Roe was able to have before it got folded back. And this is making sure that women have access to birth control. This is making sure that doctors and nurses are not criminalized for providing life-saving care. And this is also to make sure that women are protected at every step and every journey of their reproductive rights. And also, I want to reiterate that this issue is one that is critical across the board for every single voter in this district, not just women, because this deeply affects families, this deeply affects children, and our elderly really care about their families and about the future of their children and their grandchildren. And it's become very clear to all women in all families that when women are told what they can and cannot do, they are less equal citizens. And so this is critical, and we're not backing down from this fight.
Can either or both of you talk about what you see as examples of people of this being the thing that people talk about across the state, or convincing you that women of all ages really are focused on this?
So on the campaign trail earlier during the primary, when the Dobbs decision leak happened and occurred, it caused a stir. On that same day, I was going through a district tour in the most rural parts of the district, and I myself was a little nervous to talk about the issue. But people asked me, men in particular, raised their hands and asked me, what are you going to do to protect my daughter? What are you going to do to protect my granddaughter in case she were raped, in case she was a victim of incest? Because these are very real things that people deal with, and while we like to be private and we like to have these conversations in the privacy of our home through the lens of religion or through the lens of morality, or whichever way we see best fit, right now this is an issue that's come to the forefront, and we cannot stay quiet anymore. In Spanish, there's a saying, calladita más bonita, pero ya no.
It's truly the #1 issue I've heard across the state of Texas, and I have been in rural and urban areas all across this state. People have come up to me and told me their own stories of where they had to make a really hard decision, and they would not be able to make that decision today. I had a conversation with physicians outside of Dallas very recently about what they were seeing, and they were seeing patients that were told your fetus is no longer viable, but they were forced to carry the child to term and then have a C-section. So it's not only an emotional pain that the patient is experiencing, but it's a financial burden on the individual and their families. So the harm is there, and physicians are scared. They don't want to go to jail. And so they're afraid of providing care. They're afraid of meeting the standard of care that they need to meet by their own professional standards. So this is a very, very critical moment that we are in Texas. I know some folks want to say that it's not important, but when you're talking about half the population being told that they have no rights over their own bodies, and moreover, they're going to be forced to be so sick before they're treated, that's not equal treatment under the law. My job as an attorney is to make sure that the law treats us all equally, and that applies to fighting for women's rights.
Can you, well, there's a big sort of line that a lot of Republican candidates like to repeat, right? That Democrats, support abortion until like the ninth month, through the third trimester. Can you talk about that accusation and how you approach that when you talk to others?
Abortion is illegal in the state of Texas, so there is no limit right now on that. It is completely illegal. I just had a daughter. I have a 6-month-old baby. I picked her name the moment that I knew I was pregnant. And if I had received hard news in the last trimester of my pregnancy, that if I were told that it wasn't viable anymore, I would have been heartbroken. And I think that is the reality that a lot of people are facing when they are later in their pregnancies and they need to have a medical abortion. So it's a distraction from the realities that we are experiencing because people are dying in this state.
And that is a fear tactic, and these are lies that radical Republicans are spreading, just like they are talking about every other issue, by making people feel afraid about issues and circumstances that are not the reality. Just like Rochelle Garza just said, right now abortion is illegal, so no one has access to this care no matter what stage they are. So whenever there's thousands, if not millions of dollars invested or spent in messaging like that, it's very harmful to our community and it's very harmful and damaging to our families. And that's why we're in this race. That's why women like Rochelle Garza and myself are fighting to represent South Texas families, because for far too long, politics has been about lies and divisiveness, and we're not going to stand for that.
We have time for one more question. Are you pressed? Are you pressed? No, sorry.
We're going to get there.
Yeah. Thank you. One more question. Okay, if not, we'll go ahead and close this out. Thank y'all so much. We'll get the town hall started momentarily. Michelle.